To District 4, the best place to be for information and news. I'm your host, A-Love. I am here to talk to you about financial literacy, and this has been the series that we've been doing. Everybody fell in love with this series. We are teaching you guys a lot of practical things, but also some unusual things. This is one of those topics and subjects. We labeled this broke, question mark, but over time, question mark. So what exactly does that mean, right? It basically means I'm going to tell you some things that'll keep you broke over time. It's not going to happen right away, as most things don't when you're, say, financially free or you're living above your means. It's geared a little bit more towards them. Because people have the misconception that when you're broke, it's just that you're born into poverty, and that's exactly how you live. Once you have financial freedom or you're rich, you stay there. We've disbanded this myth throughout this series, and we're going to continue to, because I want to drive the point home that that is not true. And more often than not, you lose and become broke. You lose money and become broke over time. So this is what I'm trying to show you here in this particular video. So this is one you want to take notes. Also, make sure you utilize the playlist. It is important that you watch these in a series and you do take notes throughout. But this is one in particular you really want to make sure you take some really good notes and stay until the end, because this particular video I'm going to show you a sort of strategy technique that I use in order to get you to save at any income level. Okay. So let's start. So the first thing is we're going to start with some things that sort of tear you down mentally over time, because they kill, either productivity, or they, take your mindset in the wrong direction, or they derail you. We're really dealing with a lot of things that actually derail you over time. Okay, so let's say you have your goal ready. You're like, okay, Alex, I looked at your videos. I'm up to the point where I'm kind of strategizing on my goals and where I want to be financially. Now what? Okay, so let me tell you some more things that are going to actually derail you. Okay, so people, I can't tell you how many times I've seen this, and particularly in younger people. And I alluded to it in the first video when I talked about grinding. And this was like this huge thing about everybody wanting to grind. And I said grinding means you haven't gotten there. And it was important that I emphasize that, not that I was putting it down, the initiative or the concept of what you're trying to do. But I was putting down what it was actually being defined as later. The first, number one, is busy versus time management. Somewhere along the way, somebody told us the more busy you are, the more productive you are, and that is not true. Matter of fact, you could be wasting time rather than being productive. You could actually be doing the opposite. And I've often find most people that are super busy, because we have 24 hours and everybody has the same 24 hours, have a tendency to be procrastinators, which is counterproductive. I'll let you hold that for a minute. If you're running around busy, just constantly, you don't have time for anything, it's probably because you're not time managing. And it's probably because you associate that with being productive. Or you want people to think that you're productive. But a real person that manages their time really extremely well knows that you're just not doing anything. You're not doing enough of what you should be doing. Okay? So I want to make sure that people understand over time this kills you. This doesn't kill you immediately. Procrastination, if you just get into the habit of that, it's called a habit for a reason. It's because over time it makes you suffer. And you end up doing more work because you're wasting time, and you don't get any more done than somebody that does half the time, that takes up half the time doing even some of what you're doing. Also, it encourages a lack of productivity because it allows you to take a long time on a small task or something that should only take you a little bit of time. You're actually spending, countless amounts of hours on something that should only take you an hour to maybe two. But you're like turning it into a whole day's project. It's like, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. I've seen people come, late to meetings, but they're constantly late every single time. And it's like, oh, I didn't have time. And I'm like, we work at the same place. We have the same amount of hours, and we come to the same meetings every week. And yet I'm early every week, and it's not a judgment. It's just a way of saying, over time, this person either got fired because they made such a drastic mistake, or they missed a deadline, or they were consistent in missing something. You said? So as an entrepreneur, if you plan on being one or if you're already one and you're still at the stage where the company's not running itself, time management is more important. And you will find people that manage their time well really aren't running around busy all the time. I mean, you have days where you're like, oh my God, I can't talk to you right now. I'm in the middle of doing something like I probably just did a minute ago. But that doesn't mean you're like that every day. If you're constantly like that, you have to check whether or not it's making you money. Because this is finance, right? So I have to apply everything to money, right? So financially speaking, you probably don't have any more money than your neighbors or your friends or anybody else. You're probably just as broke. And yet you don't have time for anything. It's like, it almost doesn't make sense. It's like, what are you doing? I want you to look at that and see if you're just a procrastinator at the end of the day, okay? Or if you're stretching out tasks that could be shorter to, appear that you're doing something. That you don't want to fake something like that, right? It has to be legit. You have to legitly not have the time. Okay? Buying name brands. Now, I've talked about this before, and you're like, but that's what you do. It's kind of like the purpose of why you're buying name brands. Now, I do occasionally buy a name brand, but it's for a reason. Okay? I'm going to give you a great example because I know a lot of people don't know this. Birkin bags are very popular with women. Bags for you men out there are a status symbol for women. It's like buying a Maserati for you guys, right? Not to sound, gender stereotyping, but for the most part, a woman loves a good bag, right? And Birkin bags are very popular. Well, they're very popular amongst poorer people, but not the wealthy for the same reason. The reason why that bag became popular in the first place is because the company donates to charity. So it's like a donation and you get a bag, right? You're helping something and they're giving you something in exchange. This is the same person that would buy this bag for this reason that would just donate the $10,000 to a charity that they believed in and not get the bag. For poorer people with broke mindset, people with a poor mindset, they wanted the status of the bag because they saw wealthy people carrying it. And it's completely different, right? Because most of the time, I'll get it to the next one that I talked to you about, but most of the time, you're unaware of how that wealthy person, quote unquote, even made that popular in the first place. And it's never or very seldom for the reasons you think. When you buy a brand name, sometimes you know the people. Right? If I'm friends with the designer, I'm going to help him out if he's having a show by buying something off his line, right? It's very different than you're buying it because you think so-and-so has it. And you want to keep up and you want to look like you have money. Once again, just like electronics, purses are the same. You'll see somebody with a Versace bag because that's popular for poor people because they know that it's the only label they pretty much know. This is a judgment, obviously. I'm saying it in a sarcastic way so you can really hit home what you're doing and how much money you're actually wasting. They'll go to the Versace store and buy the bag with saved money, or a bonus of some sort. When realistically speaking, that's not really the case for a lot of other people. Now, why am I saying that? It goes to the third one that I want to bring up. Mimicking people, but not their character. And you're like, what is it? What? You're like, Alex, I'm already confused. So now you're just confusing me even more. What does that mean? Okay, so I'll give you a great example, and it's because I come from entertainment, but a lot of people mimic celebrities. Like they'll go out and buy a Birkin bag because they saw, a celebrity with one, or they'll go out and buy, a certain pair of pants or shoes, or a brand name. Going back to the second one, and I'm trying to allude that you're buying it for the wrong reasons, and also you're mimicking the person rather than the person's character. So let's say, for example, somebody that you admire that's a celebrity is carrying a Birkin bag. Kim K, for example, right? She's carrying this Birkin bag. She's walking around with a Birkin bag. The reality of the situation is I love to blow people's minds with this. She got it for free. See, the more money you have, the more people give you. This makes zero sense when you think about it, but in real life, most of the time, the stuff that you're buying that's on a celebrity, and I happen to know this, they didn't pay. They gave it to them for advertising, right? Because they know that a person that wants to keep up with the Joneses is going to run out and buy whatever this person has. It's the same thing for like colors, like, oh, the season color is purple, and suddenly you'll see a bunch of celebrities pop up, with purple, some kind of purple outfit or something. That's made up. That's not really true. But let's just say that color was purple. You'll start seeing a bunch of people buying purple and paying costly for a color that's going to be out of season the next thing, and they're going to be wearing something else. So why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this to give you a reality check. It is not important whether you mimic a person you think has money. I told you in the video before, you'll look at that. As you're watching the series, go back and look at some of the other ones, and you'll start to see why I was saying the things that I was saying, because I was knowing certain things. In the first video, or in this last video, I talked to you about doing that, about mimicking people you think are wealthy, because most of the time you will find, if you're very showy like that, it's more than likely you just started getting money, which means you may not be managing it well, or you just simply are just buying as you go. Okay? Also, it's a good way to say you need to follow the person's character. That's sustaining, because remember, this video is about over a period of time. So in the beginning, it may not hurt you. Maybe you did have the $10,000 for the Birkin bag, and maybe you didn't know why people were actually, how that became popular, and you just went out and bought it because you wanted to keep up. But when you develop that habit of spending that way, let's say you're rich right now. Let's talking to those people, right? Say you're rich right now, you're completely comfortable, you've got your savings, you've passed financial freedom, and you've got a little extra, and you said, you know what, I want to treat myself, because this is usually how it works. You're treating yourself by spending money. I don't know why that makes sense, but let's say that you are, and you go out and you buy this Birkin bag, and you like the finer things. I hear people say this a lot. Oh, I love the finer things in life. I don't know what that means, but it basically means you're spending a lot of money in my translation. So you're running out and you're buying Birkin bags, you're buying Versace's and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, bam, stock market crashes where you have most of your money invested. And that happened during the recession. And of course, those of you that are old enough, the Great Depression. And you lose $4.5 million. Are you going to want to first accept that? And are you going to want to accept that your life has now changed? Right? Now you can't go back, right? Or you don't feel like you can go back. Because you've gotten into the habit of saying to yourself, my material possessions basically tell me who I am. And now I'm not that. So I don't know who to be, right? But you've developed this habit over time. See, this isn't you don't suddenly get depressed because you lost money just because you're depressed because you lost money. It's what you're losing that goes along with that lifestyle that you've developed, which was on the wrong foot in the first place because you were basing it on the wrong things, right? This is not a morality lesson. It's a lesson of spending habits, right? And maybe a morality lesson too, but not really, right? It's not my job to tell you. Okay, so blame and no accountability. Now you're like, Alex, you just said it wasn't a morality lesson. Aren't you talking to me about moral? Talking to you about how to run a company. Right? There's nothing worse for any company than a ridiculous high turnover rate. Right? Because you lose money. You're training people, you're getting people in there, you need things to run a certain way, and then all of a sudden it crashes and burns and you have to step in to a money pit, because basically at that point you're going to start losing your money. And you're like, what does that have to? I'll give you an example. Shows like Bar Rescue, for example, exist because of money pits, right? People are putting money into something that's basically not gaining them money. They're losing money, they're stressing out, this is a microcosm for large businesses that are ran by people that don't take accountability. Cannot blame everybody for everything. And ultimately, this seemingly an innocuous habit makes you suffer financially because it seems innocuous, but it isn't. it is harmful because it's going to start to show in other areas, which will eventually hit you financially. And I don't want to see you make a mistake. If you go to the mindset of people that are poor, that are broke, that are struggling, and the mindsets of people that were wealthy their entire lives, you will not find a lot of blame in those mindsets for the wealthy people. And as you grow in your wealth, your mindset will also change. You'll start taking accountability for more things. But one of the favorite lines that comes from a person that I automatically pretty much assume is broke in mindset, poor in mindset, is that they say, oh, I don't care about anything. I don't care. I don't have to follow rules. These are people that they don't follow rules because they feel like it's, they're not going to work for the man. They have all these reasons, but they generally just have an ability to take accountability. And you hear it and you listen, and it'll stop you from even just getting a job. No one wants to hire somebody that's like not accountable for their actions. You don't want to work with people like that, right? Which will hurt you financially. You won't even get to financial freedom with that attitude. You won't. You'll always lose something. You'll always lose some money or something. I promise you, I've seen it so many times. I can tell you that that's pretty much a guarantee. I mean, give you a guarantee because I don't know you and I don't know your finances. But on a general scale, I have seen, on the people that I have seen, that is one of the problems. When I see a business that is just dying, it is usually equated to a significantly high turnover rate. And when you examine why the turnover rate is so high, the person's a dictator. They are not taking any responsibility for anything, and they blame the people that work for them for, anything that's not going good, when it's probably not even their fault to begin with. Okay? So think about these things. Okay, this one's going to give me in trouble. I give you a bonus, okay? We'll take it as a bonus. I think that I would hope that you have heard this before. Don't play lotto. I cannot tell you not to play lotto, but I guarantee you only a certain mindset would ever play lotto. First of all, if you have wealth, what do you need to play lotto for? You're not going to do that. It's not even something you're going to waste time on. Even if you're financially free, a lot of times you're not going to play lotto. Why? Because it gives you quick money, easy thought process, right? A lot of criminals think like this, right? I'm going to sell drugs. It's quick, easy money. I can get out where I'm at. How many drug dealers still live in the ghetto? It's like, is it even helping you? Is this quick money mindset really? And your life has to be in danger. Is this really worth it? Is this grind, this hustle, really necessary? Did it pay off for Bernie Madoff? When he did white collar crime, does the crime matter whether it's white collar or it doesn't matter? Criminal mindset goes anywhere, and for a period of time, it will work. Selling drugs will work. I cannot tell you that you're not going to make money selling drugs immediately. You are. I can't tell you if you swindle people out of money, it's not going to pay off in the beginning. And for Bernie, it was 12 years, right? Paid. But no one wants the consequences, and they will happen. Because anything that comes fast is going to go fast. So don't even put your mind in that state. You want to be, dignity, integrity, accountability, all those things. You're like, I see so many criminals get away. But they don't ever actually really get away. I mean, they get away for a period of time. So if you want to buy time until you go to jail, or buy time until someone shoots you to death, or buy time until, you have no family or friends, buy time until the money that you earned you actually have to pay back. Because a lot of times when you get caught, swindling money from a company, and it's only a matter of time, somebody's going to go in there and eventually check your books, or you cook your own books. It's only a matter of time. It's like a ticking time bomb. That's why no one with any sense does this, because they know quick money's not going to last. And you've burned the bridges of those relationships that could have helped you in your time of need. Now you're in your time of need alone, right? Nobody wants to be around somebody that's committed and act like that. So all of these mindsets, period of time, they go over a period of time. So lotto gives you that sort of quick money mindset. You kind of know where you're at. And that's like, oh, it's fun. It's just gambling. What do you mean? It's a habit. Gambling in and of itself. The fact that you're comparing it to gambling in your mind, which gambling can be an addiction. There's whole centers that talk about how far you can go with this habit if you don't stop it. Right? If you let that habit get out of control. So you're saying, well, it's just fun. It's just, but if you're like desperately buying lottery tickets out of every check that you make, and you're not applying that money to something that can make you money, that is a habit that's going to hurt you in the long run. Because there's, I buy, $20 worth of lottery tickets. You're going to keep justifying it. Okay, I get it. No one wants to hear don't play lotto, right? But the truth of the matter is, add up that $20 you're spending, and then ask yourself on the times that you had extra money when you bought extra lottery tickets, or when the pool was, large or whatever. Like, ask yourself those questions, right? Because the truth of the matter is, it's just a bad habit. And your chances of winning your chances of starting a company and making that work are probably greater than you actually winning lotto. And the sad part about it is, if you are that, 1 in gajillion jillion, that's a made up number, but 1 in gajillion jillion that actually does win, the larger percent of them, what is it, 85% or so, don't even keep the money. They end up broke again within a 5-year period, because that mindset sets in again, and then they go back to spending the way that they're used to. And I mentioned that in one of the other videos. Okay? So you've got to keep this stuff in mind. You've got to keep this stuff in mind. I'm going to let you sit with that just for a few minutes. Because I want you to think about what I'm saying. Okay, so now, I'm going to give you so the second section, I don't know how to put this, but there's a mindset of mantras that people live by. Sometimes you don't even know you're living by them, right? Sometimes you just use it to keep you going, right? Or you use it because, you're going to live by that. And the problem with this, and the ones that I'm going to mention to you, because I'm going to give you some examples. I'm going to tell you why you have to check your information, because one of the things that hurt you over time is your inability to know things, right? Your inability to get knowledge, and your lack of desire to want to know more than what you know. You will find a lot of people that are broken spirit, broken mindset, poor, generally have a tendency to have, one way of thinking. And they will stick to that. And you can't open their minds up to anything else. You ever talk to a person like this? This person is just like set on, this is the way. This is the way, this is it, this is what's going to be. And you're kind of like, okay, well, can you just try to listen? Try. So these are people that have their mindset in certain things. And that's fine if it's based on something that's really going to be helpful, help you grow financially. But if it's not, you have to be careful. So here's some of the things that, what doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. You're like, yeah, what do you mean, Alex? I go by that. What are you talking about? That's not a poor man's mindset. What? Okay, so here's the problem with this. First of all, people think it's biblical. It is not. That is not in the Bible. You're like, how do you know? Okay, I've been a Christian a long time. That is not in the Bible. What is in there, since those of you that want to challenge it's Ecclesiastics, right? 3:1. Everything happened for a reason, right? Is really what it's talking about. And it's referring to love, right? It doesn't say everything happens for a reason. No, you have to, or what doesn't kill you make you stronger. It doesn't say that. So you need to first realize that that's not a biblical if you're following that and making that a mantra. The second part of that is where it comes from. It is a poem. Comes out of a poem. Do you even know where? First of all, people are saying it and living by this because they think it's biblical. So that's already, I'm letting you know right away, fact check me, that's not in the Bible. 100%. I already know it's not. The second part is, it came from a poem. I I love poetry. There are beautiful poems all over the world, but I don't live my life by that because they're mostly metaphors, right? One of the things that in this particular poem, okay, I stand corrected. Okay, this particular mantra is based on health. I'm sorry, it was based on health. The person that was talking about this was talking about your health, and that when you maybe break a leg or hurt yourself, it'll make it stronger if you continue on and you heal it and you go through rehab, basically. It wasn't talking about your finances and your lifestyle. Why would you live? First of all, you're living your life by something that's not even accurate. I just said it wrong, right? I just had to correct myself, right? I had to relook at my notes and go, wait a minute, that's not right. Because these mantras get all jumbled up, right? I just did it myself. What if I would have just started living on that, thinking that I was correct about what I was saying? See there, I tricked you. I gave you an example. I have to lead you into these things. I had to use myself as an example, right? I tricked you. Because the reality is, here I am giving out wrong information that sounds completely true, right? But it's not. It's not. There is one on here that's that, but that's not it. This is the one that actually was literally speaking about your health. You got to think about that. You've got to take these mantras you're living your life by, thinking it's a biblical mantra, which it's not. It's not in the Bible. Thinking that it's, whatever you think it is, and it isn't any of that at all. You have to put it back in the proper text. And in the proper text, that's not something you should be living your finances or your life by. Okay, so don't send me hate mail. I hear you. You're typing on your computer with hate mail now and telling me how wrong I am and what do I don't even know what I'm typing. Yeah, I can't. I'll take it, I'll take the abuse. But if it makes you think, that's all I care about. Yeah, I'm going to get in trouble for that one. Yeah. What does not kill you makes you stronger. Yeah, it is a health quote. Okay, it is not a quote to be living your by. To be living your life by. The one everything happens for a reason. That's the one I'm sorry, I got those mixed up. I really did get those mixed up, by the way. Everything happens for a reason. I don't follow any of these. This is why I got them mixed up, because I hear them and I basically I already know you're going in the wrong direction with that. But everything happens for a reason. Not biblical. People think that's another one that's in the Bible. And that is, fact check me, that is not in the Bible. It is not. So you're not basing it on what you think you're basing it on. And the second one is the version of that's in the Bible is Ecclesiastes 3. Okay? It is not that. It says for everything there is a season. Not everything happens for a reason. For everything there is a season. That is different than everything happens for a reason. People just throw that, everything happens for a reason. No, it doesn't say that. It says for everything there is a season. You're like, isn't that the same thing? No, it really isn't. I'm going to let you think about that. It's not the same thing. Things happening in seasons, meaning this too shall pass, or this is a time where this will go by, isn't the same thing as saying everything you do, everything that happens to you in your life, good or bad, happens for a reason. That is not true. Sometimes you made that happen because you made a bad decision. If you want to count that as a reason, then take accountability and acknowledge that that's that reason. But don't just use it as a way to be passive and let what you did pass. I was drug dealing for a reason. Well, so is going to jail. Everything happens it's going to jail, happening for a reason. Are you allowing yourself to believe these things? So people use it as a crutch. And I'm saying that you live your life by that because you're applying it wrong. And it's something nice to say. This is another thing when people follow each other. It sounds beautiful. everything happens for a what a comforting thought that I don't have to take accountability for my actions. Okay, this is how I'm looking at that. So do not send me hate mail, okay? I'm sorry. Okay, I'm getting in trouble again. I'm getting in trouble for almost all of these because I know people fall. Good things come to those who wait. People. Now, this is actually a poem. This one was really a poem. It was in a poem. It is actually misquoted. It is not quoted correctly. It says things come to those who wait. If you read the poem and you put it in the proper context, it's by Lady Mary Curie. Okay, it's the poem, and it's really talking about. Okay, it's actually the opposite of what people use it for. Good things come to those who wait. If you read the rest of the poem, let me see if I wrote it down. I believe I did. I think I wrote the whole thing down. Okay. Well, if you read the poem, I'll tell you because I didn't write the quote down, but it actually says it didn't work out for her. That it took too long is the last note in that phrase. I know, let that sit in for a minute. You're like, what? I thought good things came to, isn't that biblical? So now you're going to default back into biblical. No, it's not in the Bible. 1 Corinthians is the closest, I would say. And that's 10:13, and it is referring to temptation. It is giving you patience to not jump into the temptation. It's saying wait before you do something tempting, that God will help you with that. It is not talking about, good things coming to those who wait as if you use it or some people use it in just a sense where you're just lazy. Okay, that's a little harsh, but where you're just waiting for things to happen. My promotion at work will come. Well, there's not a guarantee that that's going to happen. And do you know if you actually deserve a promotion, right? Money will come to me, if I just work hard. My fear with all of these is application, right? I want you to have a mantra that you apply that brings you results. Time and time again, these methods or these thought processes actually are misquoted. They're taken out of context and they are used in the wrong way. So they're applied wrong. So there's nothing worse. This is why I'm so strict on my information that I make sure, even if I check it, I double check it before I even present it. Because I want the understanding is I want you to be able to apply correctly. I can apply a whole lot of wrong things. I'm sure my parents gave me bad advice. I'm sure friends gave me bad advice. I have probably unknowingly, unwittingly given bad advice. But it doesn't help when you need to apply things. And especially because we're talking to people that could possibly be in a desperate state. Not everybody's financially free. Not everybody's rich. And more than likely, you're not wealthy. So I don't want you to, and hopefully you're broke and learning. Because that means that now you're on the road and I can help you with some of those mistakes that people commonly fall into once they get money in order to lose it and have to go back. There's nothing worse than that. I know you think, oh, you keep saying that, but I would rather find out for myself. Okay. But it is bad, though. I've seen the end result of that. It's terrible. Okay? So if you have a mantra, more than likely go research it. I promise you will find most of the time the things that, broke mindset and poor people throw out at you is not valid. It's not viable. It's not something that you can really apply and it be productive. You can apply anything, right? I can listen to anyone. Homeless people sometimes say the most beautiful things. I'm like, listen to this guy, like, you are so smart. Why are you homeless? I don't get it. I used to work at a homeless shelter. They would come in and they would be some of the most intelligent people you've ever spoke to. You're like, oh my God. And then 5 minutes later, he would say something crazy, and you would be like, oh, I was listening to you, 5 days ago. Okay, so I use that. Bad example, but the reality of the situation, break the habit of just taking these things and adapting them as mantras. I'm going to live my life by this, because first, get knowledge. I say all that to say that. Knowledge first, application later. Do not just take a mantra that sounded nice at the time. How many people, and I'll put it in a financial text, right? How many people, I like to use rappers because you can see, the mindsets of them a little more easily. I don't want to say a name, but there was like this huge producer, and he was just like, oh, he had a Bentley, and he was on Cribs, and he was dating like successful women, and he just was like living the life, and he would get bundles of cash, and you could see him, and all of this was going on. Well, this guy files for bankruptcy. He filed for bankruptcy. How do you do that if you're worth as much money? But before he filed for bankruptcy, he had all kind of, go get what you want, and this is and he had all of these sort of greed mentalities that he would throw out there, and people followed them because they're like, well, he's successful, and they sound good, right? What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Every time I say that, it's like, that's just dream big. That's another one that people say, dream big. What does that mean, though? Yeah, it sounds good. If you dream, you should dream big. But does that really make sense? And you're like, yes, because you're expanding your mind into dream big. That's not enough information to live by. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying go out. I'm not saying don't live by these things if you research them and they make sense and you can apply them but most of the time you will find a lot of these, no, you can't apply any of them, and some of them aren't enough information for you to apply, right? Dream big, that doesn't tell you anything. That's not enough information for you to be like, I'm going to dream big. Well, what does that mean, though? Right? Good things come to those who wait. I mean, there used to be a movie, okay, I'm getting ready to date myself, but there used to be a movie called A Love Story. And one of the lead characters in there, the lady in there, and she says, love means never having to say you're sorry. And in the 70s, I was like, tears came to your eyes because she was crying and you're crying and everybody's crying in the movie. It's like, Rod O'Neal was an actor back then. And he was like, yeah. And years down the line, somebody asked an interviewer, the writer, what does that mean? Love means never having to say you're sorry. And he said it just fit in the spot. And it sounded like something that would move people. That was it. That was the explanation. Really, he was saying, doesn't mean anything. It just sounds good, right? And here's everybody running around going, love means never having to say it. It was like tears in your eyes. You're mimicking this behavior in your relationship, right? You're like, babe, love means never having to say you're sorry. All the time, it doesn't mean anything, right? It just sounds good, right? The writer's a strong writer, right? He says, okay, I need something that's going to move people here. Okay, let me write this down. That's usually how writing works, right? I'm a writer, I know, right? This is what you do. You put stuff in there that makes sense. But no one knew that for decades, right? I don't think that interview happened until the 90s. The movie came out in the 70s, like 1972. Don't quote me on that time, on that actual year, but it was in the 70s. So I say all of that to say this. Do your homework. Don't just listen to things that people tell you because they sound good. Look at who it's coming out of. Look at a little deeper into who's saying what. Why they're saying it, where it came from. you'll find that a lot of people are regurgitating stuff that they've never even researched. And that's not who you want to be following, because in the long run, the wrong things to build your foundation on will help it to crumble. Right? Don't send me hate mail. I'm trying to help. Don't. I hear you. I hear you out there. You guys are all going off and you're judging me and you're talking about my terrible green shirt or whatever. Throwing potatoes at the screen because you've been living your life by these things that you thought meant something, right? They mean something to you. And I'm not trying to take away from that. I'm not telling you that it might not still mean something to you. But I'm saying pick something that's going to, I guess the best way to say it, pick something that's going to lead you into something that's going to be productive for you financially. Okay? And this type of misconceptions are what kills people, right? Because I hear people quoting them all the time, and they're never coming out of somebody that can actually apply with it. Well, I correct. It's not that they're coming out of somebody that can't apply them. It's something that's said that sounds good that can't really be applied to anything, right? You have to turn it into something, because it really doesn't mean, dream big doesn't really mean anything. That's not enough information. If you say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and you think it's biblical and you're a Christian, you're going way down the wrong path. Because it's not even meaning what you think it means. Now you're going to apply a bunch of, biblical principles to something that doesn't carry that weight. And if that's the foundation of how you make your decisions, you're already making a mistake. You follow me? I'm not saying that everybody that follows this is religious. I'm just saying a lot of times I'll hear people go, it says in the Bible, it doesn't. I'm like, that's not in the Bible. That's not in there. Good things come to those who wait, and you're like applying it to something very serious because you really believe that that's true, and you find out that's just nothing more than a poem that's actually misquoted, because if you read the poem, she was saying it didn't turn out well. Just read the little, what do they call it, a sonnet? Read the whole thing. It says the opposite of what you're thinking. That it wasn't worth it for her to wait. You know what I mean? So it's just, I think that was the ones that I wanted to highlight because I hear people saying them all the time. Yep, I think that's it. Okay, so now I'm not gonna, tell you a bunch of bad things without giving you something good, right? So here's the bonus. Before I get to the questions really quick, I don't have a lot of time, but I wanna, so here's the bonus. Okay, so I gave you a formula. I told you to take, if you made 23,000, I was using that as the example. I told you to take your vices off of that top number. See, now you're glad you stayed until the end, because I'm going to tell you why I told you to do that. I'm going to show you. So you're going to take that 23,000, you're going to deduct the vices. So, and our example we were using was you made 22, your vices were 2,000, you took them off the gross, you ended up with 20, right? So for you math people, do not kill me, I'm trying to do this on the fly, but roughly that makes it about, without deductions, 1907, and with deductions, 1833. I don't know if that's, correct me if I'm wrong, give or take. And then if you're doing it, okay, so now, I forgot something. Okay, so I think that's about right. It's about 1833 if you take away withholdings, right? Okay, don't quote me. But I think that's roughly correct. It's rough, but it's roughly correct. Okay, so now if you do it with holidays and vacation pay, wait, what am I doing? I'm missing something. 1667. Okay, so there is something missing. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take that full amount You're going to take it without deductions. You're going to subtract from that with holiday pay. Okay. I don't even know if that's accurate, really. Okay, so, sorry. You're going to take the 1833. I'm doing it with different numbers, so it's throwing me off because normally I already know the calculations, but I'm trying to figure them out as I go. And you're going to do it from and then you're going to take the 20 and do the same thing. So you're going to take it from the 22. You're going to take it from the 20. You should take these two numbers. It'll turn out to about 1667 minus the 1833. I don't know if that came out right. And then you should have approximately 166. I'm trying to write this out now. This is terrible. This is not working. Okay, so either ways, the difference between those two numbers, when you do your gross and subtract it from there, you're going to go back and subtract without the gross, right? You're going to subtract all of your vices. So if they were 2,000, minus it from the gross, 2,000, minus it from, take it after taxes. So you're going to do one before taxes and one after taxes. That probably sounds a little more clear, okay? You're going to take those two numbers and subtract each number from itself, right? You're going to subtract one total from the next total. And then what you have left over, so let's say in this case I thought it was 166 because I was subtracting 1833 minus 1667, which came out to 166, right? This 166 is now your savings, right? You know you have it because I deducted it from these two numbers that you work from, right? Or whatever your base pays are. So you're getting it from your base. And you're creating a savings that should come out. And that will be more than this if you make more. So the point is to be putting away something monthly and something annually without changing your lifestyle. And I tricked you into living below your means. Does any of that make sense? If anybody has any questions on that, tell me, because I wasn't very clear because normally I already have the numbers and this time I'm trying to deduct them while I'm going. Which, as we all know, I am, not certain about. So that probably made this more confusing than it needed to be. So ask me questions if you have to ask me. But in reality, what I did was create you two savings. I gave you the monthly by showing you how to budget, and I gave you an annual. This will not affect you because you already know you have the money. And it's going to make you go below your means, right? Because after that, when you subtract the two numbers, you'll see it. You'll see it once you do it. It probably, I'm not explaining it correctly, but it's a method I made up, and I give it to people, and it actually works. They will save monthly and once a year, monthly and once a year, and they do it every time. So it's to encourage you to know that you have the money. I have to show that to you first. The purpose of the formula is to do that. It's to show you that you have the money. So I need you to look at the numbers, and I need you to look at them in wholes, which is why at the beginning I said, look at your numbers in wholes, and you're like, what? Or I said, deduct from your gross, and you're like, what? You're trying to figure out what you have annually to give. That was what I was doing. So there was a method to the madness, and there's a method to this madness. I'll probably explain it again without pre-calculating the numbers instead of trying to do it in my head, because I'm not as confident in my math skills without a calculator. Not that I'm not old enough to have learned without a calculator, but that's not the point. So I have some questions. I had a little bit of time to answer. You said prioritize your bills. Do it correctly. What did you mean by that? Okay, so you've been watching my videos. I said prioritize within the categories. Okay, so say for example, we'll use, I said entertainment, savings, and then your living expenses. These were the three categories that if you're following my formula, you were going to follow. So within those categories, once you list out those things that you're paying, so let's say it's your housing expense, you might want to put your food in there, or whatever bills you owe. Put them in order. literally as to what's the greater priority. And I used the example in the last video. Somebody put food first, and I said that's a recipe for disaster, because you're always going to need a place to stay. You can always eat less, but you can't live less, right? You're going to live in a tent. I mean, you have to have a place to stay. So that has to be, especially if you're a renter, just even as a homeowner, just period, shelter is probably first. So let's say you don't do that, just to give you the example. What if you don't do that and you put, something else first? You want to pay your gas and electric first or whatever. It's probably a bad example because hopefully your gas and electric bill's not that high, but let's say that it is. And you're prioritizing that, and you get in a jam and you've let these bills slip, because what a lot of people do, the reason why I say it this way is to prioritize correctly, is because, this is going to sound crazy to a lot of you, some people don't pay the whole bill. This is to stop this habit. And some of you are like, what? Why would you pay half the bill? It's going to add up. And then I get it. But there are some people watching this video going, yeah, I do that all the time. Some people pay, a portion. And they live their life living their bills that way. And then if they lose their job, they're really can't pay a portion of your rent. You can pay a portion of your food bill, but you can't pay a portion of your rent. And it is to prevent you from losing your place. Foreclosures, all these things are to prevent, right? So when I tell you 60 days in advance, when to pay your rent, when I say pay on it, it's to do all of this ahead of time. But let's say you don't and you have to pay partially something. Do you want to have to pay partial rent because you've prioritized your bills wrong? Because they're probably not going to let you do that. And if you do get a nice enough person, you're still going to have to end up paying what you didn't pay, right? So, prioritize. Would you rather be homeless and eating less food, or would you rather have a whole bunch of food put out on the street with you while, you have to look for a place to stay, or you go stay with your parents? Somebody asked me a question. Backup camera. Okay. So that's what that basically means. Backup camera. Backup from my camera. Okay. Thank you, whoever said don't need to back up. I'm too close? Okay. So that's why I was saying those things. And then one more, we're going to get one more. You said don't get a financial advisor. Why? I did not say that. You watched the video, which I appreciate. But I did not say don't get a financial advisor. As a matter of fact, I do, for people that are wealthy, or people that can afford one, that you do get one. Why would I tell you not to do that? What I did say was, if you have one that's not working for you anymore, you're continuing to pay this person, or sometimes people think the person's stealing from them, but they don't want to say anything. That went with all of that lecture, or with all of that part of the financial series. When I was talking in the last video about that, I was talking about not to not have a financial advisor, but if you're questioning him, don't continue to just pay him. Because you don't want to make waves, or you're ashamed of what he might do. Okay? That's what I was saying. And then someone said, what is an IRA? Oh, okay. What is an IRA? Okay, so I'm going to answer that. This isn't the short form. Is there more than one? Someone asked me, okay, what is an IRA, and is there more than one? Short version, it's a way to make your money work for you by putting it in something that'll make money while you're sleeping. Now, I will answer that in a long form next time, but I don't want to run out of time. And then the second one is there more than one? Yes, there's a traditional one and there's a Roth one, and the difference is basically taxes. That's the short version of your answer. You guys have a lot of questions. Okay, so to be continued, because I will tell you more than that. You said the mindset of new money and old money are different. Explain. I'm so happy you guys are watching these videos. I actually did say that. Mindset is different because, one, you're accustomed to a certain way, right? You've been taught certain things that you're not going to be taught if they don't have it to give, right? If you're of a poor mindset and you've been living that way, and you live in a mindset of scarcity, you will only pass that on, right? If you've never lived in scarcity, then some of the things a person in scarcity will say makes no sense to you. You'll be like, what? Why does that? Like when I say things like, you'll see me be sarcastic, and I'll say, I know someone's listening going, what? Why would you only pay half your bill? Like I just said a few minutes ago. Because there are legitly people that have never heard of that. They pay their bills early, if not on time, and they pay the whole thing. Like you can't imagine that mindset where you would actually have to pay half a bill. Like why would you even think to pay half a bill? That's why I am addressing people that have had money a long time, and that this thought makes no sense to them, right? Just like the person that probably asked this question, why would you say not get a financial advisor? Like who does that? I had to correct that because it's not true. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, especially if you can't afford one, don't get one. That's the people I'm telling not to get. If you're broke, what the heck is a financial advisor going to do for you but take more money? And he probably won't take you on as a client, anybody with any good ethics. They're going to look at your finances and either take you for free just to help you budget, or otherwise say, you're not at the stage yet. When you get here, here's my card, I'm a bill. But no one's going to rip you off like that and make you pay. And you're still in a scarcity mindset because it's probably not going to help you anyway. Okay, so more questions than I realized. I will get to them. I might have to do just a Q&A for this, but you kind of got the scope of what I wanted to say, and I will explain my formula again because I know that it was a little shaky because of the numbers, and I have a tendency to want to make sure my numbers are at least close. They might be off by a penny, but that's all I want it to be off. I actually think that they're accurate, but in case they're not. So this is all part of the series. If you have questions, thank you. Send them. I couldn't get to all of them this time. This is the first time I wasn't able to get to all the ones that I thought within the same time frame. But pay attention. Pay attention to what you're following. Don't listen to something just because it sounds good. And I encourage you, don't just listen to me. I'm telling you not to. Check what I'm saying. That's what I want you to do. I want you to be like, is she telling? I don't know if she knows what she's talking about. And go look that up, and you're like, okay, she knows. I want you to check. I welcome it because the truth of the situation is these are not made up scenarios. Probably every scenario up until this point that I've given you are real people that have actually done these things. Even if you don't believe me, when I say people prioritize food, I literally said this in a crowd once, and everybody was like, what? Like, why would you pay more money? Like, people were like, that was outrageous. Not that food isn't a priority, it's where you put it in the chain, right? That's why I said within the confines of your bills. So thank you so much for watching. This was a a little bit more technical one. I probably made some enemies on this one. Don't send me hate mail. And you're going to probably feel like you need to send it to me a couple times, but and check anything that you need to check for me. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you utilize the playlist. Like, subscribe, leave questions in the comment section, and do watch the videos more than once. Okay? All right, thank you so much, and I will see you next time.